This is ScapeROMFiles. Love some call me Plug from the ScapeROMFiles, and man, I have not used that intro in quite some time. It's probably cursed, but whatever. One of my recent live streams has kind of made me snap in two in a way that I just have to hammer this point in once again. And this point is about how I do my channel and all that shit. It's like when Big Al 2K6 way back in the day had to basically mansplain to his fans and how he does his shit. But instead of like a bunch of people, it's one person. But unfortunately, a lot of people have this mindset. I am not a negative person, okay? The things I talk about are just my feelings on something. If it's something I like, I will express how much I like the game. If I don't like it, I'll fucking say otherwise. Yes, there are a lot of shit in games nowadays, whether it be with DEI, wokeness, forced propaganda shit, stamping pride flags and shit on anything that isn't necessary. And as a dude who grew up with Mission Hill, that show can show a proper expression of LGBT, whatever the fuck that means. That show, I felt, handled it pretty well, even with the introduction of Gus and Wally. Just like everybody else. Yes, they're gay, but that's really about it. And Gus is also really funny, too. And even their backstory in the episode that they got was actually pretty good. And mind you, this was back when gay stuff was still seen as rather taboo. And unfortunately, a lot of it can be seen as taboo, but it's mainly because we have to be reminded of the fact. But let me continue. I really don't want to derail this rant. Just because I happen to be critical on something does not mean that I'm being negative. Even one of the best games of all time, like GoldenEye, there are people who don't like that game. Does that mean that they're a negative piece of shit? No. There's a reason why a lot of people like the game. But it also doesn't hide the fact that the Xbox One remaster is a piece of shit. And you're probably wondering why I'm comparing apples to oranges. It's because at any point in time, whenever I say anything that's remotely negative, it's on the equivalent of DSP, yes, DSP, being negative about anything and everything, all because it did not go his way. Which is immensely retarded. There are also other games that I do love, like Akiba's Trip, more or less the sequel, because the original is kind of dated, but they can both still be enjoyed for what they have to offer. Blast of Massa Zero, a trilogy of games that is somehow more consistent in quality than the Arkham games, which are also games I do enjoy. Yes, Arkham Knight had some really shitty writing, but compared to what has come out now, I still feel it holds up pretty well, especially in the gameplay department. Now, a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about the tank in Arkham Knight. Does that mean that they're a negative piece of shit? No, it just means that I have a higher tolerance for it, but doesn't make their points any less valid. It's still a thing that's in the game. So, how come whenever I say anything that's remotely negative towards the game, all I can get from people is that I should bring up the positives instead of the negatives. Just focus more on the positive energy. There is always more negative, but positive always wins. It's easy to be negative about anything. Pick the harder route. Always being critical becomes negative. All about balance. And this is coming from a person, which I don't want to sound like an asshole, but any team-based game out there that does not go his way, and he'll fucking cry his eyes out. Saying this to the dude who actually had a lot of nice things to say about Balan Wonderworld, but also had some things to say about it. Even before I played it, back on the XCOM, and after the fact. Yes, I will stand that I did enjoy playing Balan Wonderworld. Yes, I am aware that there are a lot of things in the game that can be seen as actual bad design. Does that mean that I have a weird taste in games? Sure, why not? I mean, I like Dead Rising 4 after all. Does that mean that I hold it on a high pedestal and say that anyone who defends the game is a piece of shit? No, because the game actually does have flaws. The story is shit. Yes, the fact that they replaced the voice actor of Frank West in the game is unacceptable. But from a pure gameplay stance, yes, I can enjoy it. Lots of people do it anyway. So what difference does it make if I were to use Dead Rising 4 as that example of a game where I can take away the narrative from it and just enjoy the medium that is the game? If I have something to say, I'll fucking say it. And I was also argued with the fact because I had the balls to say that the key burst in Neo 2 was just an annoying ass mechanic, and if I didn't want to deal with it anymore, then just stop playing the game. Or that the Hunter Vision in Far Cry Primal, it was legitimately annoying at times because the game does not separate friend and foe, and unlike in a lot of games, killing friendlies in Far Cry Primal can impact your camp and shit. And there were times where I was using it, and for whatever bumblefuckingly stupid reason, I ended up killing my own kind, which has negative consequences in the game. And mind you, I still don't think Neo 2 is all that. It's just essentially a Souls-like disguised as a Diablo-esque looter game with instanced areas that at least has better design than, like, a lot of shit that's in Elden Ring, but that's another story. Or despite Ubisoft shitting out a spinoff of Far Cry 4 that has nothing to do with the game besides the fact that the area in the game is eerily similar to that of the base game, it is an interesting take on the genre, and you don't really see many Primal Before Christ themed first-person shooters. And this was also back when Ubisoft wasn't totally pushing their microtransactions, especially compared to that of Far Cry New Dawn, let alone Far Cry 6, or even something like Tom Clancy's Breakpoint. And this is also coming from a dude who actually really liked Ghost Recon Wildlands. Yes, Wildlands, a Ubisoft game. I know some people don't like it, but whatever. I feel it's a more genuine version of what Metal Gear Solid 5 should have been, but whatever. Also, I want to go back to the point I made about the person that doesn't like team-based games going their way. Coming from someone who has, for a brief period of time, have played original Modern Warfare 2 to reach level 70 and a little bit of Black Ops for somewhat similar reasons, I mainly play Team Deathmatch and Domination because, number one, I don't care for the extreme game modes like Search and Destroy or Headquarters or whatever nonsense. And as much as interesting games like Capture the Flag is, people barely play those modes because, well, it's Call of Duty and people only play Domination for one real reason, and that is to launch nukes. Now, I've said this in live streams of future past, if I can even use that reference anymore. Getting the Mercy win a la baseball is acceptable in Team Deathmatch, as the point of the mode is to win by kills, but playing objective in Domination and getting kills in Domination and then getting a nuke and then winning of the fact is fucking retarded. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because, first of all, I heavily disagree the practice of getting a free win by getting kills in a game mode where you have to do more than that. And number two, I actually like playing Domination because it's more involved, and even if I'm not playing a full squad or whatever, unlike a certain Wings of Redemption, winning by objective is more satisfying, but I'm not going to take it super seriously unlike a lot of people, whether it be this person or whoever plays Call of Duty competitively in 2025. I'm not against objective-based modes with randoms and the most casual shit of something like Domination, but there's a reason why I tend to stay away from games like Left 4 Dead in an online scenario, or games like Counter-Strike in an online scenario, or even games like Marvel Rivals or any Battle Royale that forces you to play against randomized teammates, because those games usually require something called voice communication, and you can't just play those games. You can play a game of Domination in Call of Duty. It is impossible. I understand there's a demographic for that, and I understand that there is a satisfaction of playing against randoms, getting their high off of it. I don't. I prefer having games that can actually be constructed well enough to have AI bots with proper pathfinding and skill ceilings that make you feel like you're actually playing against a real person. And as much as I want to cite Perfect Dark as the perfect game, no pun intended, I don't get a high off of playing against randoms. I just don't. I understand that people enjoy this sort of thing, but I don't. Does that mean that I'm a negative piece of shit? No, it's just, I don't get a high off. Like how some people don't enjoy reading books, while a lot of people do. It really should be fucking obvious. Also, going back to another game that I've been playing recently, even though I've said time and time again that I'm just tired of the Souls-like genre. I mentioned this in a live stream, but I'm going to go ahead and elaborate for video purposes. AI Limit is a game that, as of this recording, I can't completely give my true thoughts on it. But there are things about the game that I do like. But the only thing that I actually could find to be a proper criticism is that you cannot ascend ladders up quickly. You can ascend them quickly, but you cannot climb up ladders quickly. In a game that basically has no real stamina usage aside from doing certain attacks like parrying or using your other spells and shit, like the railgun, it legit does not make any sense to me. Now that type of energy could be used as the same thing as how I didn't like the key burst mechanic in Neo 2, or that the Hunter Vision in Far Cry Primal did not separate friend or foe. Of, well, if you don't like that, just don't play the fucking game. That's the energy that I got whenever I complain about such trivial matters. Which is fucking retarded. I think people are allowed to express criticism without being blatantly annoying about it. Like how people refuse to play AI Limit simply because there is no character customization. Even though this isn't even the first game of its kind to where you're restricted to a player of one gender and one gender only. Do people not want to play something like Kingdom Come Deliverance because you don't get to play as a woman, or that there's no character customization like Elder Scrolls? Or even games like Witcher? Yes, I understand that games like The Witcher or even Kingdom Come Deliverance has a pretty damn high narrative point, but because you don't have character creation, that means the game sucks. Now that to me is being blatantly negative for the sake of it, and the fact that people actually agree to that, an opinion can be wrong, but you are not wrong for speaking the truth. You don't have to agree with how I feel about things. There are people who I watch on YouTube from time to time, they say things that I don't necessarily agree with, okay? I know that Heavy Metal Gamer recently, I saw in one of his social media posts saying that GoldenEye is a terrible game. I obviously don't agree with that. Now, does that mean that I think he's a piece of shit? Or that he's an asshole for not liking it? No. People have reasons to dislike things. That doesn't mean they're fucking negative. Even if they're blatantly wrong, usually people have reason to dislike something, and 9 times out of 10, they usually have reasons to think that way. Even if they can be completely wrong about it. Which is funny because I've actually posted things on Discord that could be proven otherwise, but usually it's just pointing out the actual stupid people and not people who actually have things to say about it. Case in point, another video that Mr. Machiavelli recommended me, a video basically reviewing Elden Ring Night Rain and calling out the From Software community. Obviously, a lot of the things that he mentioned in the Elden Ring Night Rain review, I pretty much disagreed with. Now, yes, this isn't just because I don't like the game, but it's just mainly with the things like how Dark Souls is a game that isn't meant to work in co-op, the game forcing you to play it. I'll just read one of the points from the review that just genuinely baffled the fuck out of me, because even I could not believe when I heard this. The main point of victory is not by build, but being able to dodge roll. Too difficult for the average From Software fan, so then he can't enjoy playing with randoms. Dark Souls is about doing a no-hit run. I don't get it. I mean, people can feel how they want. I'm still gonna think that they're wrong, like with my points. I don't expect people to ass-kiss me and say that I'm the best that there ever was, I'm always dropping truth nukes or whatever. Even in my Doom the Dark Ages rant that I did, the latest one, there were a lot of negative people saying that I was basically wrong because of completely invalid reasons. And even some people who cited Doom Eternal as the greatest game of all time, I still think that is an opinion I heavily disagree with, but they also had things in there that they said that I could agree with. It's called agreeing to disagree. Even if there's some things that people say that I don't agree with, even with how a lot of people view Lolly and Shota, but I'm not going to get into that because that's already a spicy enough topic. They're not assholes for being critical or being, actually able to think for themselves usually. Now, yes, I do watch channels like Dark Lord Jotto 1, and as with Nintendo Power back in the day, if they told you a game sucked, it sucked. And if a game was good, it was good. Of course, you should always take things with a grain of salt, but usually when you play a game and you hear from someone saying that the game is not very good, chances are it actually might not be good. But what do I know? Even watching credible reviews, even people like DW Terminator, can be seen as, of course you agree with his opinion on Elden Ring, even though he blatantly explains it in a way that makes it a lot more sense than most people would. Or even Synthetic Man's hot take on Doom Eternal, even playing on the correct difficulty or whatever. But let me wrap this up because I don't want to derail this shit any further than I've done. If there's a video topic that I want to talk about, whether it be positive or negative, I will fucking speak on it. And especially if it's a topic that could possibly get some traction. Yes, I could do a video talking about Sun and Bone, which is definitely a game that I will get around to talking about, but chances are it's not going to gain much traction. Because, quite frankly, a lot of people hate that game, just because it copies Doom Eternal and that's it. So, unless I actually come up with a clickbait title to get attention, it's not going to do very well. I will still plan on doing it when I finish the game, but not to cry about views, but something like that is not going to gain much traction because, well, I'm not being positive enough about the game. Yeah, because being positive about Sun and Bone is totally what Escape and Playa needs because he's always just a negative piece of shit. It's just fucking dumb. I also want to point out something else here that I find incredibly funny. The bias that I mentioned in Doom: The Dark Ages, okay? A lot of people are very unhealthily biased around games that they think is perfect and are indefensible. You want a real balance? If you're a real fan of a game, a book, a movie, a TV show, whatever, you can still like it, but you can also speak your mind on something that you didn't care for. I know this is going to sound fucking ludicrous, but just hear me out for a second. Let's say you're playing something like Super Metroid, probably considered to be one of the greatest games on the Super Nintendo. Meridia is just a piece of shit of a level, and it's not very fun to go through on repeat levels. Now, does that mean that the game sucks? Of course not. There's always a dud in these types of games, and it's pretty blatant that Meridia is probably the most disliked area for a reason. Maybe people disagree and think that it doesn't change anything, when I've technically already said that it doesn't. Or even watching something like The Godfather, one of the greatest cinema masterpieces of all time. But then you get the toll booth scene, and then you get PTSD all over again. But for different reasons. Even watching something like the DC animated movie series that ended with Apocalypse War. Yeah, the ride wasn't necessarily worth it, now was it? Or even reading something like... Okay, I can't think of a fucking book analogy. I don't really read books. I mean, people read tweets, but that's about it. But you see where I'm going with here? People can express however the fuck they want, unless they're actually grifting or lying for personal gain, or trying to sell snake oil. Now, if you want to be entertaining about it, that's one thing, but chances are people actually sniff the copium and then try to convince others of that toxic shit, alright? And I'm going to bring up a certain individual, and I know this is going to probably piss off some people, and I highly doubt they're going to watch this far, but there are channels like Under the Mayo that just genuinely piss me off, because he is the type of dude who will say that Doom Eternal is one of the most perfect games of all time, but then even in his video criticizing the game, his recent one anyway, just the fact that he wants to mock people for points that can be seen as valid is not only dumb, but just incredibly disingenuous. And then when he made the video talking about how his personal childhood ruined one of the greatest sequels to a game of all time, that is Resident Evil 2. Honestly, it's like dating nightmare levels from Review Tech. Whether he likes Resident Evil 2 or not is whatever. I don't think he necessarily grifted, but I do think it's funny the way that he described it, and can be seen as entertaining but not for the right reasons. But a lot of his Everyone Told Me to Play video series is just based on a very unhealthy bias and then blaming the game for something that isn't. Now that's being negative. That's not seeing the good with the bad or whatever. And I know I kind of say that a lot, gotta take the good with the bad, but I don't take it to such the extreme that if I'm playing a game and I don't enjoy it, then I'll just do something else or just drop it entirely. Or that there are games like Akiba Strip, going back to that one more time, there's a reason why I hold that game in such high regard. Yes, the game's combat is shit, but it offers a lot that could be enjoyable, but as with The Witcher, if the core gameplay, which is the combat, is not very good, chances are the people are not going to play it because the combat is actually terrible. But what it does offer is actually good. It makes me want to keep going back in spite of the shitty combat. Now, does that mean the game sucks? That is completely subjective. It has that balance, although more balanced alongside everything else besides the combat, but whatever. The point is that if you think that just because I say something that could be remotely interpreted as negative, but then want to lump me into people like Under the Mayo or Darkside Phil or Young Defiant or even whoever modern day critiquer that has nothing nice to say about anything at all, you're an asshole.